Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regular session meeting of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. We're also sitting as all special taxing districts. This is the June 18, 2018, 9 a.m. meeting. Um, we have Supervisor Porches attending by phone, so he's available. And the first item in the agenda is a call to order, which I've just done, and the Pledge of Allegiance. Would Supervisor McCall please lead us on the pledge?
Sure. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Seems to be a very busy, full session here. The first item in the agenda is call to the public. Call to the public is held for the public's benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona revised statutes, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and decision at a future date. I do have a few cards here. I think if you put taxes in there, are you waiting to speak during the budget item, or do you want to do this on the call to the public? Now, I do have another one from Carl Kaiser, who wants to talk about something else. It's called to the public. So, Carl, I think you're up.
Thank you very much. My name is Carl Kaiser. I moved to Yuma in 1954, and they had never made enough money to get out, so I've always been happy to call this my home.
Well, you were in air conditioning, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Sir, my question to you is, since you're getting ready to raise my property tax, is this going to, in fact, is it going to cost the taxpayers more money to educate the children that live in Mexico going to school in the United States? Is it going to cost me more money for that also?
You know, that's a question that I haven't been asked before, which is weird, but I don't think we have. I think the school districts set their own tax rates. We don't set them for them.
Well,
So their decision, wait, Carl. Their decision is theirs to make. They tell us, we don't set their tax rates. They set their own tax rates, and that's how they pay for their school system. So I suppose that because we approve the tax rate they send to us, in some way we are part of that decision, but we have no way of telling them, how to set their budgets. It's their own decision.
But we are educating children living in Mexico, going to school in the United States on the taxpayer's dollar. That's my problem. And the question I have to you is, why should me as a taxpayer in the United States pay for somebody living in Mexico to go to school on the taxpayer dollar? And I would like somebody that spends my money to be able to tell me that.
Anyone here has an opinion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, this is a call to the public. It's not on the agenda, so it's not subject to discussion unless you
Okay.
want to respond to
Okay.
criticism, which you can.
Well, this is a response to criticism. I think that you can narrow that one. Carl, does anybody here want to have a response to criticism?
I don't hear any criticism, it's just a question.
Yeah.
See, that's been my big problem all the time is nobody wants to do anything about spending the taxpayers' money on things that we should not be spending our money on. We have better things we can spend our money on than people living in other countries going to school in the United States. If the children living in Mexico want to go to school in the United States, they should have to pay to go to these schools. And some of them do, but not all of them. Most of them cheat the federal government because when they take money to go to school, they have to lie on their form saying they live in the United States, which they don't. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl. Thank
Have
you.
a good day.
Again, is there anybody else that is in the public that would like to address the board in an item that isn't in the agenda? Any comments or anything? I'll leave the call to the public open so that we can, take it up in case there's some comments that you would like to make somewhere along the agenda. I am going to continue then to the next item, which is presentations, proclamations, and appointments. And during this segment of the agenda, board members may discuss the presentations and proclamations and may announce appointments to the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission and the Yuma County Board of Adjustments. There will be no legal action taken. Normally, the board members can make appointments to the Board of Adjustment or to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Some of the appointments need board decision, but not those ones. Is there any board member that would like to make an appointment or make any changes? If not, then we'll move on to our first item in that particular segment, and is the presentation of the county line by Yuma 77, the Yuma County Government Channel.
Public Works employees go through some interesting training, all in the name of safety. Going to the polls this fall, you're going to see something new. And find out how our Adult Probation Department operates to help initiate positive life changes. These stories and more, this is your County Line. Our Public Works Department works hard to ensure you the service you expect. And in order to do this, they do a lot of training to be proficient in what they do, and for safety reasons. So would it surprise you to know that many people working for Public Works are also certified miners? Recently, the state of Arizona sent an instructor to the Yuma County Public Works Department to teach workers about safety while working at mines. Our county government has to maintain a gravel plant, which is technically a mine by professional standards. The gravel plant is where the county mines, crushes, and mixes the rock used in your streets. As you might guess, it can be a dangerous place to work, and before anyone can step foot on the property, the state requires them to take safety training for mines.
We want to make sure that each and every one of our miners has the information that they need at their fingertips or at their disposal, so they do it right the first time. You get one shot at a lot of this stuff, and that's it. It's as simple as that.
The Yuma County Gravel Pit is right next to the North Gila Transfer Site, located off of County 5th Street. For more about our Public Works Department, log on to yumacountyaz.gov and find Public Works under the Government tab. A new election cycle is headed your way this fall, and Yuma County voters will notice something new when they visit the polls. Over the next couple of weeks, your county government will be receiving all new voting equipment. All told, the county will receive new poll books, ballot-on-demand printers, tabulators, express voting machines, and a new central counter.
Yeah, there are two distinct benefits from the new elections equipment. The first one is they'll notice an ease of check-in when they come in to vote. And the second one is it'll be quicker voting time when they go to the new express vote machines versus the old touchscreen machines.
The public will get a chance to preview this new equipment. The equipment open house will be held August 1st through the 10th, and you'll get a hands-on look and be able to ask any questions about casting your ballot. When you talk about probation as a profession, you might think of a rough environment. But what we see on TV shows paints a very different picture of the goals of a probation office. As we focus on the Yuma County Adult Probation Office, you may be surprised to learn the goal is to help probationers by setting up an environment that fosters individual growth, creativity, and fulfillment in order to motivate change.
I think it's important to know that the Adult Probation Department is an arm of the Superior Court of Yuma County. Our mission statement basically is to provide the highest quality of service to the court and the community and victims of crime, and then also our justice-involved individuals, otherwise known as probationers or defendants. We have pretrial services. We advise the court of risk of reoffending while somebody's on pretrial. And also we provide information about risk to not appear for court. And those are the two highest issues of risk. So it allows the court to make a decision on whether or not to release somebody from jail once they're arrested and awaiting court processing. The biggest part of what we do with probation is supervision. for those that are convicted of felonies and some misdemeanors like domestic violence and DUI. And we supervise them at different levels and helping folks get the kinds of services that they need so that they don't come back through the system. For the most part, probationers are ordered to do a community restitution, or they could be sanctioned to do that if they make mistakes along the way. We have a very small community restitution units. It consists of a supervisor and a specialist, and they set up work crews almost every day of the week and go out and help nonprofits or government agencies to do work. It gives the probationers an opportunity to learn a work ethic, but also to give back to the community. We have about 85 employees at the department, supervisors, probation officers, surveillance officers, and support staff. And we have to work together as a team to make this work.
You can learn more about the Yuma County Adult Probation Office by navigating to yumacountyaz.gov. You'll find them under the Government tab.
I'm Elia Juarez, and this is your Library Update. Did you know you can get rid of your overdue fines and help the less fortunate at the same time? I'm about to tell you how. The Yuma County Library District is sponsoring our twice annual Food for Fines food drive. Right now, what you can do to clear off $1 of your overdue fees is bring us a can of food that is at least 10 ounces or larger. Just make sure that it's a labeled can and that we can clearly see the expiration date, and of course that it's not expired. Cans only, please, no packages or glass jars. All of the food will be going to the Yuma Community Food Bank. Food for Fines runs from now until July 14th, and it's going on at every single library branch, so make sure you get your food in. For more information, you can check us out online at yumalibrary.org.
The fall primary election will be held on August 28th, and you don't want to wait to register. Voter registration will close on Monday, July 30th. The last day to request an early ballot will be August 17th. If you choose to cast your ballot at the polls, remember, Yuma County will use vote centers for the election. There will be a total of 9 vote centers open. 2 of them will be mega vote centers, which are designed to handle larger crowds. Stay tuned to your county line. We'll be bringing you updates on the election season heading this way. And before we head out, some very important scheduling information from all of us at your county government. As you're well aware, the July 4th holiday is just around the corner, and you'll want to know that most of your county government offices will be closed Wednesday, July 4th, in observance of the national holiday. And there will not be 2 meetings of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors in July. Mark your calendars, Wednesday, July 18th will be the only Board of Supervisors meeting. We'd like to thank you for joining us for this county line. If you'd like to watch past episodes, log on to yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. And don't forget, you can join us live on Facebook. We'll see you next time.
Difficulties. All right, we'll continue. Get you back. The next item on the agenda is a presentation regarding the Yuma County Owner-Occupied Housing Rehab Program. Nancy?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Nancy Nye with County Administration. It's been about 10 years since the county's owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program has been created. And so we want to take this opportunity to celebrate the program as well as give everybody some information about the program and what we've done. First of all, before I start, I want to thank the board supervisors as well as the county administrator and deputy county administrator for all the support to the program to make it a successful program that it is. Let's see if I can get this to work. So the goal of the program is to eliminate unsafe and unsanitary housing conditions to low-income families and preserve and improve housing stock's overall conditions and the environments of neighborhoods. Our program is a much more robust program in the sense that the county program is aimed to eliminate all the code violations and making sure that the home is totally safe for a long period of time for the family. I want to introduce you to the staff who are very instrumental in making this happen. They're the one behind the scene, and the program would not be a success the way it is if it wasn't for them. So if you guys would stand up. Gloria Malik, Housing Director, is the administrator of the program itself. Gloria, you want to stand up? Housing Department was very graceful in coming to the forefront and getting this program implemented on a daily basis. And Maria De Los Reyes with the Housing Department is the main person behind the scene who work with the clients and making sure they're eligible and that all the things are done properly. Diana Velos is with County Administration. She's the one that administers the grant program, so she makes sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted to make sure we don't get into any trouble with the grantor. We also have Thomas Delgado, who's the plans examiner, and the Pat Hennington, who's the chief building official from Development Services. We have a very cohesive team that's built now, and it's a very collaborative effort among different departments within the county. And if it wasn't for them, this would not be a success. Development Services with the Building Safety Division, they're able to let us know what code violations, and they're more familiar with, obviously, construction standards. So thank you to them. The eligibility for a program is that the income is a crucial part, obviously, but the property has to be owned and live in primary resident of the owner. They have to be a legal resident or a citizen of the U.S. in order to qualify for the program, and the household size goes into that calculation of eligibility. The county's housing rehab guideline requires that the home is occupied as a primary residence and owned by the applicant for at least 2 years prior to applying for the program. The unit has to be 15 years or older, not in the flood zone, and they have to be up to date on all the insurance policies, mortgage, taxes, everything before we will assist them. Also, there can be no liens or judgment on the property. So the program is a zero interest deferred forgivable loan. It is not a grant program, it is a loan program. However, we do forgive a portion of the loan as long as they live in the home and occupy that home as a primary residence. So we have a maximum of $40,000 right now in the guideline. And if the investment in the repair of the home is at over 40,000, it's 15 years. If it's more, actually, yeah. So we try to keep it at the 40,000 so that, you know, we maintain 10 years. So we do leverage of other agencies like USDA and Western Arizona Council of Government, the weatherization program, to maximize our dollars. We do provide waivers to the program if necessary, if it's deemed necessary, because cost construction is so high nowadays. We want to make sure the home, once it's repaired, it complies with all the building codes. Obviously, the main factor of a housing program is safe, health and safety. majority of our applicants are senior citizens, and so ADA accessibility is a high demand. And with the high cost of energy bill nowadays, we want to make sure that the home, once it's repaired, is as energy efficient as it can possibly be. So the state actually requires that the home be Building Performance Institute standards. The home has to be certified for that, which means that it's sealed tight for leakage of air. I'll give you some idea of what some of the homes that have been repaired. This one, as you can tell, the roof needs to repair, the paint, as well as a lot of interior work that was done. So after the repair, the home actually looks much nicer for the neighborhood.
They also got an air conditioner.
Yes. We also, before we assist the homeowner, if there's a lot of junk in the yard, abandoned vehicles or whatnot, we require them to clean it up before we assist them. Because we want to make sure the overall environment of the neighborhood is safe. As I said, ADA accessibility is a high demand for our senior citizens. And in this case, we manufacture a home with staircase that doesn't work. So a ramp was built for this home. Even though there are grab bars that was already placed in this home, in the bathroom, on the shower, for someone who is wheelchair bound, they're not going to be able to get into the shower. And so we have built a new bathroom that you can wheel the wheelchair right into it, makes much more sense and safer for the homeowner. Air conditioner is high demand here in Arizona, in Yuma. And, after every year, the air conditioning age, the efficiency of energy level goes down, and it's one of the highest energy costs for a home. So it makes sense to replace air conditioners wherever we can. There are instances where the homeowner built accessories to the home that are not safe and hazardous. So in this case, what we did was we built a storage room in the back that would house, we replaced the appliances, the water heater, so that it's much more safe and friendly for them. I think that's a new porch as well. We have a lot of manufactured homes here in the county, and if they're prior to 76, it's not really worth the money to repair it. Or if it demands too much cost to repair a home, it's much more efficient for our tax dollars to replace the home altogether. So it's in this case, we replace a manufactured home with a stick-built home. This is a stick-built home that's really old. There was a lot of code violations here, a lot of repair that was needed. They added on the structure to the back of the house, not just side of the house. Old air conditioners, the interior, kind of jigsaw wire. You got a couple of pieces of wood that's on the outlet, the circuit breaker. Thank you. So, high chance of fire with a home like that. And it's important that we make sure the neighborhood is safe, as well as this family. There's a large family that live in this home. And so we reconstructed a new home, which will last the family a lot longer. Running through this a little fast. If you have questions, let me know.
And it's a simple 3-bedroom, 2-bath, right?
Yes, yes. Yes, this one's 3. Typically, we build 2-bedroom.
Okay.
Because most of the families that we assist are seniors,
Yes.
and the family's already grown and out of the house, and it
Right.
doesn't make sense to have a 3-bedroom. So it's a very small 2-bedroom that we typically build, which
Okay.
costs less. So as you can tell, the interior is much, much more livable than previous. So what have we done in the last 10 years? Well, we spent a little over $3 million, and we so far assisted 89 homes. We are continuing to assist more homes, and as you can tell, every year we're able to spend a little bit of money. There are some years we're higher than others, but the program has been working successfully for us every single year. In addition to that, the board has awarded various nonprofit agencies here locally who also are housing agencies. Their program is different than ours. Their program tends to be smaller. They assist a lot more families, but it's just like putting in a new air conditioner or fixing a roof, and they don't look at the code violations or anything like that. So obviously the dollar amount is a lot smaller, but with 650,000, they've been able to assist about 100 families. So that's really, really well. So that's
Any
the
questions?
presentation, nice and quick. If you have
Thank
any
you.
questions, we have a display board of all the areas in the county where we have provided assistance. And you can see the concentration is more on the north end, simply because the funding was geared toward a specific area. So, and the program, the Yuma County program, is available to qualify applicants who live in Yuma County, with the exclusion of City of Yuma and the town of Welton. And that's only because they have a similar program within their jurisdiction.
Mr. Chair and Nancy, I would like to clarify the owner-occupied, the OOHR, the owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program is through Housing and Development, so HUD funds for that, called the home grants that we've applied for and received and then administered on their behalf. And CDBG is also a HUD grant program that we've assisted the 100 units through those other agencies.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So Nancy, it's a loan program. What percentage of funds that we expend do we actually get in return through loans? Is it 70, 90?
Our program is not a recapture program in the sense that it requires you to have a collection agency and so forth. The state of Arizona that is a pass-through of those funds to us don't require it to be a recapture loan program. So as I said earlier, a portion of the loan gets written off for every year that they live in the home. But if they sell the home,
There you go.
if they sell the home, then they have to pay the remainder 100%.
Is it a 5-year plan?
Well, the long term depends on the amount that was assisted.
Yeah, 5, 10, and 15, right? Yeah.
Supervisor,
Mr. Chairman,
question?
and what happens if,
That was Porches.
what happens if the occupants pass away?
If the occupant pass away and there is no co-owner of the home, and we did that is because, as I said, a lot of our applicants are senior citizens, and they are unwilling to participate in the program because they want to give something back to the kids when they pass on. So that's the reason we decided that if the original applicants pass away, then the loan gets written off.
Even though the family may get it and sell it.
That's true.
All right.
I don't,
Is that a policy decision?
yeah.
That is a policy decision. We can certainly bring back the policy to see if you want to make any changes to it. If there are some things that you would
Listen,
like
you know, as
changed.
bad as this is going to sound, I mean, the only reason it's made like a loan is to give those people some responsibility for it. But actually, it works more like a grant than a loan. But obviously, as much as, you know, you want to recoup as much as you can so you can reuse it. But in reality, it is designed more like a grant than a loan.
That's true. I will let you know that most of the homes that we assist are so in disrepair that requires more than 40,000. So therefore, we do go partner with USDA. So the family, if it's more than 40,000, they need to try and qualify for whatever grant loan programs within USDA, because we do want them to take that responsibility.
And so your, if I may?
Sure.
So your policy then, that if somebody sells the home, ensures that you don't go fix up a home and they just sell it and walk away with the money?
Correct.
They don't.
Correct.
And in case of death, it's erased because we certainly don't feel that that dead person is going to get any benefit from it.
No,
But the family may.
Policy we might want to talk about someday.
Yeah,
Right.
I'd
Yeah.
like to talk
Okay.
about that. Nancy,
Okay.
I'd like to talk about that in the future.
Any other questions? No questions? Thank you, Nancy, for the presentation.
Thank you.
All right. We're then, once the lights come back on, yeah, the lights are on. We're going to move on to the consent calendar. The following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. We have items 1 through 20. 1 through 20, I hope that Supervisor Porches can, you know, somehow hook up back into the system, and I'm sure he'll let us know when he's in.
I'm here. I'm hearing you.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
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 Okay.
Oh, gee, we thought we could get away with doing something without you noticing, but all right. There's 1 through 20. Are there any items that that any board member would like to pull? And if not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar's items 1 through 20.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we, if there are none, that we approve items 1 through 20 as presented.
Okay. There's a motion and second to approve items 1 through 20 as presented. There being no discussion, nobody pulled anything out. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. All right, then we're gonna go into the Housing Governing Board discussion calendar. For that, we're going to meet as the Housing Governing Board. Is the other member here? Is she here?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's even got her own chair.
Yeah, she got her own chair this time. Much better looking than Supervisor Porches by far.
She can use my chair. Yeah, that's okay.
She is.
Oh, she is. Porches. You better be careful you don't have one when you get back.
She's gonna make herself right at home.
All right, so this constitutes the full board. Well, not the full board, yeah, I suppose Supervisor Porches is in the phone. The first item on the discussion calendar for the Housing Governor Board is the adopt resolution number 2018-24 authorizing the amount of $5,038.09 to be written off as bad debt accounts. All right.
Good morning,
Gloria,
Mr.
good morning.
Chairman, members of the board. Gloria Malik, Housing Director. We are requesting that the amount of $5,038.09 is the total past due accounts to be written off, because these are the accounts of tenants who are no longer occupying a dwelling unit in the Yuma County housing projects. These past due accounts are over 6 months old, and all means of collections have been exhausted. And per the Public Engine Housing of the U.S. Department of Housing and Development, HUD, requires that we write these bad debts off, and because all means of collection efforts have been exhausted. Although we are writing this off, our collection efforts will continue, and this list of tenants who owe us money will be listed nationally so that if they come back and ask for assistance from other public housing authority, they will not be accepted unless these accounts have been paid off.
What's the policy on bad debt? Is it 3 months, 6 months after, collection? 45 days?
Once the tenants vacated our housing projects, they are sent off a certified letter saying that, to make payments. Then within, 3 months.
3 months?
If within 3 months we don't accept or we don't receive anything from them or even come in and make arrangements, we turn them over to the collection agency. The collection agency have 3 months to make some collections. And if they don't get anything from this, then that's when the time we have to write them off. We are required to have 6 months time.
And does this involve evictions in any of these cases?
Well, it's most of this that owes money were mostly from tenants that got evicted. So it's really, these are charges, maintenance charges that they owe once they left the units because maybe
By the way, they were evicted.
Yes. So it's mostly, and it's about 2% of our total rent collections of the year. So it's not really that,
Substantial.
Yeah, that much of a percent.
Well, for the rest of the board, are there any questions? I guess we have extenuated all the ability we have to collect. And, although the collection process does not stop with this, I mean, we do have to put them in the bad debt account, so.
Can I ask
Sure.
a question?
Sure.
Gloria, how many of them apply for assistance again and end up not being able to get it? Do you have any records that show of people who, let's say, move away and go to someplace else in the country and try to apply and can't apply for housing because they're on this list, this national list?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Pancrasi, I don't have a list of, I don't have that
The
number
actual list,
of.
Have you ever had anybody have you ever gotten money back because
We did. As a matter of fact, we do. When we get about maybe 1% of that, we're still getting them, a little bit of a time, because I think that these people are trying to come back, and they were told they're not going to be able.
Yeah,
in
they
fact,
don't qualify.
they're not qualified. So we do receive something out of those bad debts.
Thank you.
And I do want to make a point, and this is not just, something that happens in the housing authorities. It happens everywhere, apartment, and this is a very low percentage. 2%, it's very low percentage. I tell you, we run some apartment complexes, and this is not uncommon. What's uncommon is the size. It's really small. It's a small portion. It seems to me maybe that's due to the fact that, this is an assistance program, and really the rents are sometimes subsidized, mostly subsidized. So in reality, the amount of debt is small compared to I think we're looking at a $3 million housing voucher system, for example. So $5,000, although it may seem like an amount, it is an amount. It's not really a large percentage of what your rent receipts are. Are there any other questions before we go ahead and authorize the amount to be written off as bad debt? If not, then I'll entertain a motion. ¿Alguien tiene una moción?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's 2 seconds, so take a second and a third. There's been a motion and a second to approve item number 1 as presented. Any more discussion from the board members or no? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No? Motion carries. We got you, Supervisor Porches. We heard your eye. It sounded like a painful expression, though, but we'll take it as an aye. Housing Board. The next item is Housing Board to adopt and authorize the chairman to sign HUD 5257A PHA Board Resolution Number 2018-25, approving the Yuma County Housing Department fiscal year 2018-2019 operating budget in the amount of $1,216,585.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this proposed operating budget is prepared to indicate that available source of funds are adequate to cover PHA's or our housing authority's expenditures for fiscal year 2018-2019. And HUD will have final determination of PHA's appropriate level of funding, which can range from 82% to 100%.
In other words, we approve the budget to cover the operations, but the final approval, it's depending on HUD's analysis of the budget?
It depends on the congressional budget.
Yeah.
It changes from time to time depending on, it's actually changing every month.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We're used to it. The state does it to
Yes.
us all the time. So,
Yes.
we understand. So what we're doing is basically approve the budget the continuing budget that you have from year to year, hoping that HUD agrees with it and gets funded to the level that you expect.
Right.
Correct?
That's correct.
Okay, does anybody have any comments? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution number 2018-25.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Then motion and second to approve item number 2 as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Still sounds like a painful aye. All right. Anybody against? Nope. The motion carries. Thank you. Item number 3 of the housing discussion calendar. This will be to approve the calculation of the operating budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019 for the Yuma County Housing Department Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program in the amount of $7,753.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, again, this proposed budget is prepared before the beginning of the fiscal year to indicate that all adequate, that sources of funds can be adequately cover expenditures of the next fiscal year. The sources of funds include the housing assistance payment funds, which are the rent subsidy, the administrative fees used to administer this program, and our operating reserves, plus a family self-sufficiency coordinator grant. And again, the final determination will be will be
made
to the
by
HUD.
HUD. Out of this budget, how much of it goes to the Section 8 voucher program itself, the actual voucher program?
Well, it is most of this, over $2 million goes to the housing assistance payments. And only like maybe $300,000 a year for administrative fees. But mostly this over $2 million goes out to the community to pay private
Section 8
sectors
voucher,
for
the
Section 8.
voucher system.
Yes.
How many people do you have on the program?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have about 401 Section 8 vouchers that these people goes out within the Yuma County's jurisdiction to find rental homes. And we pay private landlords for this. So there are 401 units, plus
There's 401 families that are assisted through the voucher program.
Yes, there are 401 families.
Mr. Chairman and Gloria,
Supervisor Blanca.
can you give me a definition of Section 8?
The Section 8 voucher program is
Rental assistance.
Rental assistance for people that have low income. Obviously, they have to be qualified under the HUD's requirements of rental calculation. And then we issued this voucher. They go out and find some rental housing within the Yuma County's jurisdiction. Versus the public housing, we do have the Yuma County own their public housing units, and we do administer those units. But the Section 8 program is privately, we send out those people.
Yeah, they go out and they find rental property that's out in the county that, yeah.
Do you have any idea of the percentage of people who are handicapped or need special housing?
It's not that many. But we do have a requirements. We have a quota that we need to meet. We probably have about maybe 15 to 20% senior and elderly person who are receiving this assistance.
Right, could get us close to 100 out of the 400 and something. Okay, all right. Any discussion on this? Any additional discussion on that? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the operating budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019 for the Yuma County Housing Department, Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program in the amount of $3,007,753. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion and second to approve the item as presented. Any discussion? I just gave you enough time, but it's okay, I'll move on. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No, the motion carries. We just, we gotta give I forget, we gotta give Supervisor
he's
Porteous a
on that
little
delay.
time. It's a little time delay. All right, the motion carries.
Thank you, Gloria.
All right, muchas gracias, de veras. Thank you very much. Thank you. No, let's leave it there so that
You
people
too.
would thank you. All right, that takes care of the Housing Governing Board discussion calendar. We're now moving on to discussion and action items. And the board will open each of the following items separately for discussion and action as appropriate. The first one is Development Service Engineering. In accordance with Arizona Revised Statutes, we will conduct an auction at 9 a.m. or a schedule permits of assessor's parcels number 664-01-067, a county-owned excess parcel, and authorize the county engineer to execute the deed transferring the property to the highest bidder at or above the minimum bid. If there are no successful bids, continue this item and authorize the county engineer to return this item to the board when there is sufficient interest to conduct an auction.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Frank Sanchez, Engineering Division. There are no registered bidders this morning. I got a call this morning from our realtor stating that the individual that was interested in this parcel decided not to go through to bid on the parcel. So we're just looking to continue the item until
Indefinitely, until we're ready.
Until another potential bidder is identified.
I still, after so many years, I still don't know the difference between continue and table an item. Is there a difference between them? I mean, I know that you continue an item to a date certain, I think, and you table indefinitely. Indefinitely. Is that correct, Mr. Smith?
It's whatever you want it to mean, Mr. Chairman. If you want to table
that's not a good answer.
it's
Okay.
truly whatever the content of your motion is. If you're going to table this to another date, or just pay it
Continue it
where
till
there's no
indefinite.
action taken and indefinitely, it's the real
It's flexible.
concern is within the substance of the motion itself.
All right.
That'll dictate
So-
what it truly is.
So I'm just going to continue this item indefinitely until the engineering department is ready for it. Okay? Will that require a motion, or is that something I can do?
You can do a motion. If you continue indefinitely, it's the same as taking no action. There's no future date. It'll have to be
Right, then I'll just
agendized.
continue it indefinitely until the department is ready. Is that okay? All right,
Great.
then this item is continued. Thank you. Thank you, Frank. The other item is for the county administrator in all taxing districts. These are actions regarding the Yuma County annual budget for fiscal year 2018-2019 as follows. A, conduct a combined public hearing on the fiscal year 2018-2019 annual budget and the and the truth and taxation, primary and secondary property tax levies to adopt resolution number 2018-2019, a joint resolution of the county, the Yuma County Flood Control District, the Public Health District, the Jail District, the Library Districts, and all improvement and special districts, adopting the Yuma County budget for fiscal year 2018-2019, and C, to adopt a resolution number 2018-20, a joint resolution of the county, the Yuma County Flood Control District, the Public Health District, the Jail District, and the Library District, in adjusting employee compensation and program funding. We do have a PowerPoint presentation, and then I'll open it to a public hearing, and then we'll listen to comments, okay? Just let me get through the presentation first. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Good morning. Today we have a staff report to provide an overview of the fiscal year 2019 final budget prior to holding the budget hearing and truth and taxation hearing and adopting the final budget today. Just as a point of clarification, the county has control of only the county's general fund, the flood control district, the health district, the library district, and the jail district. And then, as you heard, we approve the submission of a budget to the federal government for the housing department, but we don't have control over that final decision. The county does not control or have any jurisdiction over schools, cities, or other districts and their budgets. In August, when all those taxing entities bring forward their tax rates to the board for approval, it is ministerial on the board's part. We must approve them because, and we don't make any changes to them because our county assessor assesses on behalf of all entities within the county, and the treasurer collects on behalf of all entities within the county. But the county, Yuma County, has no jurisdiction over those organizations' budgets. So the schedule, as you can see, we began May 7th, and today will culminate our process for the adoption of next fiscal year's budget, which begins July 1. As we came into this budget process, our goals were to keep a baseline approach, which means looking at everything from the ground up, evaluating new resource requests carefully, minimizing the increase in healthcare plan costs, and we are very happy to note that the board was able to keep healthcare costs at a 0 increase for both the employer and the employee. We considered wage adjustments, and again, we're very pleased that the board was able to approve a 2% increase for all funds across the board. Ensuring stability of all funds, positioning ourselves for long-term sustainability by the use of a long-range financial plan, and recommending a balanced budget. The key challenges that we faced are, of course, the state budget impacts, those costs that the state has pushed onto county governments for years and has not given us relief. We did get some relief this year, some one-time relief and some ongoing relief, but we're going to continue to battle with the state on making sure that they take responsibility for their own programs and costs and not push that onto states, cities and counties. We had a number of capital replacements and improvements. The elected officials retirement plan, the legislature made some changes to that we are required now to fund at almost $758,000 per year. We had some vehicle replacements that we're finally starting to be able to make headway on. I mentioned keeping healthcare costs to a minimum, which was 0, and fund stabilization for the general fund and our major district funds. So our general fund staffing change was a net of 10.5 positions out of 1,430 positions. Here's our overall budget. The county has a $261 million budget, of which $100 million is the general fund. Special revenue funds are generally paid for with grants, either from the state or from other organizations, and we administer those on their behalf. Our major revenue sources, TPT, which is the sales tax, our county share sales tax, state shared sales tax, and property tax are the biggest portions of our budgeted resources. And this is just showing the general fund. Our budgeted uses, as I mentioned, we have a $100 million budget. That includes contingencies, which we're able to maintain at this year at a 17% reserve, which is recommended by the Government Financial Officers Association, GFOA, which is a national organization that sets those kinds of standards and recommendations. Our property tax, we're very pleased to be able to say that there is no change in the property tax rate, and so that the impact on the property owner is 0 this year. The only change would be if your property was increased in value by the assessment process. Overall in the county, values did increase by 2.5%, but we were very clear in wanting to make sure that there was no impact on the taxpayer. And unfortunately, with the whole truth in taxation announcement process and the publications that we're required to provide, the state only requires you to say things that are increasing. You can never take credit for things that are decreasing. And so in this case, we increased the general fund, but we decreased the flood control district by the exact same amount, having a 0 impact on taxpayers. But we're unable to even publicize that according to the truth in taxation laws. So unfortunately, even though we took very positive action, the board took very positive action to keep the tax rate the same, we could not convey that in the newspaper. So the only thing that you saw in the publications was the increase. We weren't able to tell you about the decreases that offset that increase. So the bottom line is the same for this year and for next year, $3.68 for all the taxing districts that we provide a property tax. That's the general fund, the library district operations, the library debt service, and the flood control district. So we have a 0 impact on the taxpayer. We did have some increase in new construction, about $459,000. The rate on the general fund side did increase, although it was offset by the reduction in the flood control. So this is just the general fund side of that. The capacity that's available according to state law is 2,094,000, and the net allowable capacity we utilized was 1,046,000, which again was offset by the change in the rate on the flood control district. So again, truth in taxation numbers show that it's something that we are showing an increase in the levy, which again, we cannot take credit in the law for our decrease in the levy on the flood control.
Hold on a minute. It's a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, comments. I don't recall, having had that happen before, but essentially, we're being required to mislead the public.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just...
I think that's correct.
That is... I don't know how that doesn't, we need to think about addressing that in the future.
In the
if we
state
can.
legislature.
Yeah. It's possible that we could do like a letter to the editor or some kind of column that truly explains this, the offsets that the Board of Supervisors took to reduce and to have a net 0 impact on taxpayers. But with the publication requirements, we're not allowed to do that.
Okay. Well, guys, you need to realize that what we're talking about is the combined tax rate. And what the law says that anytime you increase taxes in any of the funds, you have to announce that. And what happens here is you're talking about the combined tax rate. That means that we made some changes internally to make sure that the tax rate remained the same. But that as the way that law is written, anytime you increase taxes in any of these funds, you have to have a truth in taxation hearing. So it's not really truly misleading. It's just not explained well enough.
Right. And
because there are some increases in some taxes and decreases in other taxes to keep the combined tax rate the same does not mean that we didn't increase taxes in one of the funds and decrease them in the other one to offset it. I can understand that. It just isn't explained well enough. It's not necessarily...
There's no provision for a big advertisement that says we reduced your taxes in flood control by this much.
Well, I don't know if there isn't any provisions as much as there's a provision that you announce any tax increase. Mm-hmm. Is there any provision that says you cannot announce a tax decrease? That would seem a little odd.
Why couldn't you post something?
Yeah. Well,
Mr. Chairman, it's my understanding that the statute's pretty specific on the wording you can use, and that wording does not allow these folks, your finance folks, to reflect. So it's the increases that you have to reflect.
Yeah, the increases you have to announce.
For the public to know. If you were to go across the board and decrease all the rates, there'd be nothing to put out.
You couldn't tell the public that you just reduced.
All right. Okay. Well, anyway, the bottom line is the message that we send out at constituents is that in this particular year, the combined rate, it will remain the same as the year before. We really haven't increased your tax rates. The levy might have increased because of increases in evaluation, but the tax rate, the combined tax rate remains the same.
And new construction.
Yeah, in new construction, yes. All right. Well, anyway, that's an explanation. I'm sure that anytime you mention the word taxes, people are going to get upset no matter what, so.
And I did ask if Gil could show the net impact that we had, the little spreadsheet that we had on the taxpayer impact. I asked him to do that because I think that really is helps to explain more what we're talking about here. So if we'll close this out and upload his.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Gil Villegas, CFO. This is the spreadsheet that we have been using throughout the budget process. In essence, what it does, it just compares, it gives a little more detail in the slide that Susan was showing to us. It compares what is our current rate, 3.6844, compares against our adopted or proposed adopted 2019 rate, overall rate, 3.6844. You can see on a home property value at $135,000, assuming there is no assessed value increase, general fund will go up $3.67 a year. Flood control will offset that amount. And of course, the jail district operation debt service will have a zero impact as well. I'm sorry, the library district.
So what you see in blue is what is being adopted. What you see in the, without any coloring at all, is our current rate. So you'll see the change for the final adopted budget is 0.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Susan, continue.
And that concludes our report.
All right. I'm going to open it to the public. This is, after all, a public hearing. So, it's an opportunity to have a public hearing. So I'll go ahead and open it up to the public. Is there, there are two, I have 2 sheets here of 2 people who like to speak, but anyone that wants to speak, all you have to do is just raise your hand and we'll let you come up. I have Ken Rosabeer and Gilbert Hernandez. I'll take Ken first. For $50,000, you can answer this question.
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, supervisors. My name is Ken Roser. I reside at 4655 West Sundown Drive in Yuma. I spent 16 years at the chamber, and I made an annual trek here, and I'm sure that Chairman Reyes and McLeod, I'm not sure they were happy to see me every year, but my emphasis at that time was on commercial tax rates. And I was very sensitive to any increase concerning property taxes that affected commercial, because the rate that it's assessed is 10% for residential and 18% for commercial. So when you talk about a $135,000 home, you're talking minuscule compared to a $7 million commercial building and property. So I've seen some tax increases for car dealers as much as $75,000 a year just for the increase. So it's a sensitive subject with me, and since I'm retired and I now pay the property tax, I'm sensitive to it. But I also have 2 adult children that own businesses that have valuations, one at $8 million and one at $3 million of commercial value. So I'm pretty sensitive to that. So I guess what we're talking about here is how truthful is truth in taxation? Because if you're telling us that you can't tell the truth, then call it truth in taxation, we have a problem. I listened to a presentation by Kevin Tennell, and I purposely, I saw it on the highlights of news, so I taped it. And I played it back so that I heard it right. And that's where he made the comment that there was going to be offsets of the certain fees that would offset the base rate. And there would be no tax increase for hardly anyone in the county. I do remember that. It seems as though I fall in the hardly category, because I looked at my property tax in my home for the last, I've lived in the same home. I've lived in Yuma 20 years, but I've lived in the same home about 16 years. And I can't see a year where I didn't get a tax decrease. When the valuation of my home went down during the recession, my taxes went up, and now the valuations are going back up because the housing is worth supposedly more than it was. Where I live, my houses are selling for $40,000 less than I paid for my home. But my valuation is going up. So it sounds like that the county is going to get more revenue from an increased valuation of properties without a tax increase. Am I correct?
In some cases, I would suppose.
You're going to get more revenue even though you didn't raise taxes.
We didn't raise the.
I know, and it's not your fault. Now, I'll go dance with Joe Worley after I leave here.
You should have a dance with him.
But I just want you to know that I believe that taxation in government depends on the control of your budget, just like it does at home, just like it does in any. I've owned 4 businesses in the last 50 years, and I was never able, very seldom able to pass my expense increases on to my customer because of competition. Very seldom. And Russell can attest to that. He's in a business. My son's in the same business as Russell. You can't just automatically up your labor rate because you have incurred further expenses. And I'll tell you, I expect that out of government. If you and I'll make a reference to the HERF funds. The HERF fund withholds from the state of Arizona are not a surprise to any government agency. This has happened for 20 years, where they have swept the funds out of HERF, and we promise every year we're going to give it back, and we can't do anything about the roads and streets because of the withholding. Okay, if you're in business and that happens to you, you have to adjust your expenses. That's the only way you can do it. You either cut your payroll, or you cut your expenses, and that in turn allows you to continue to make a profit and stay in business. And so I almost especially with the city, I feel like going down there and playing my violin about her funds because it's not a surprise, folks. So what do? You adjust accordingly. And I guess now we're going to have a pizza company fix the potholes.
Yeah,
that's the latest one.
Buy a pizza.
Oh, well, okay. I appreciate the facts that you did not raise the taxes, although you will be a recipient of further revenues through increasing my valuation, which does me no good because if I sell my home, I still lose money. So that's
I do want to make one particular statement, and that is in reference to. Well, you've been coming here for years, and I think that you have probably
like a bad meal. I keep coming up
and you've probably seen that if there is a consistent conservative approach to taxation and to budgeting, you've seen it from us. I think
I will agree with that.
Yeah. And I think that if you look at the budget and you see, if how some people look at it differently than us. I mean, every time the staff puts out this chart where there's so much money is left on the table because we could raise it up to that level, to that levy size. It reminds me anyway that, we've never looked at it that way. We never looked at how much money we could get so we could spend it. We've always looked at a continuing budget, and we have always looked at it very conservatively. And I think that when you look at a 1 or 2% increase.
The other issue is, Chairman, that in the county of Yuma, when you accumulate the cumulative taxes of all these agencies, it's a bunch of money. And it can be, we floated all these school bonds, and then the college floated a $74 million bond. And when you do the schools, the college, the county, the city,
the jail, the
library,
flood control, the library, it adds up.
My son's piece of property started out 16 years ago at $8,900, and now it's $19,000. That's a pretty healthy increase during that period of time.
He's probably a victim of his own success. He keeps, getting better.
I wish I could attest to that.
All right, Ken.
Thank you for your time.
Hold on a minute. I don't know if, Lynn, you want to make a...
I'm sure Ken knows that he can go over to the assessor's office and contest that with
I would.
with the.
I'm sure Joe sees it annually.
I've visited it many times.
Okay, but for those that might be watching, they can also do that.
Yeah.
If they know that the values of the properties that in their neighborhoods have gone down 40,000, but yet their property values have
I've challenged
gone
a
up.
few over the years.
Yes, they can challenge those. So.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ken.
Okay, I do appreciate your handling the budget, though. yeah, I'm much more happy with you than I am some other agency, so thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Hold on.
And Ken, you look
Are you
great.
in the public here? Oh, no, he's just standing up to let him pass through. Gilbert? So Gilbert Hernandez.
Texas.
Okay.
Hi, most of you know me. Lynn, my old
Yes.
friend, Russell, and my new supervisor out there. We're talking about taxes, okay? And I want to show you something that I observed while I was in Oregon. It's really sad. Property owners pay taxes in Oregon. Anytime they want something, it's always a property tax because they don't have taxes on food and other taxes. So to me, if we own property, we're penalized by owning property. The way I'm seeing things, nice presentation, Ms. Susan, that was pretty good. Opened my eyes. The truth is the truth, but it isn't the truth. So, but what I'm getting at in wasteful spending, and I talked to my county supervisor, we had a nice dialect. At Foothills Boulevard, we had our roads repaired. Beautiful. When they first paved it, we were all happy. But all of a sudden, they're digging it up again. I'd like to know what happened, why, while the hole was dug up, they didn't put the lines in there. They dug it up the second time. So then they paved it again. Lord behold, about a month later, if that, they dug it up again. And we're talking about brand new, beautiful paved road at Foothills Boulevard, nice and smooth at the original point of paving it. Then they dug it up, they paved it again, then they dug it up again. Because they forgot the other line, the Fibrix, I guess. I don't understand. We're talking tax dollars. I don't know if originally we probably paid for the road improvement. I gotcha. I like it. But the other two, I just couldn't understand. But wait, they did it again. They dug portions of Foothills Boulevard again on the south end of it to put fiber optics or whatever. Then they covered it up again. That's what, 3? By Jove, last month they dug up the corners again to put the traffic lights on and dug it up again. Now, it would have been bad if it was all done in the summertime, but nope, they waited for the winter visitors to get here and started this whole mess. Now, taxes. Like I said, I don't know how much of our tax dollars went to it originally, but I'm okay with it. But if my tax dollars were used again to cover up their mistakes, I have a problem with it, and I haven't got an answer yet from my county supervisor. He promised me that he'll do it, and I believe him. Now, I'm slamming the county right now, but in true essence, the county is great. We got a great sheriff's department out there, and I'm a motorcycle advocate for the state and for the county and for the city. As most of you know, I'm with ABATE. There was a situation on Ironwood Drive that was pretty hazardous to motorcycle riders. I made a phone call. Within 2 days, it was repaired. So I have a lot of good things to say about the county. But that thing on Foothills Boulevard, I'm baffled. And after talking to my county supervisor, I said, I have to bring it up because I told my neighbors I would be here today to bring that up to see what happened. The trench was dug up and the lines weren't put in while the trench was dug up. We'd like to know why. And then when it was covered again, they had to dig it up to put something else in there. We want to know why. Who's responsible for it? Is our county engineers? My supervisor? Who? Is this our tax dollars going to waste on that? That's what I'm here to complain about. But I said my sheriff's department and my county workers, they do a pretty good job out there for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilbert. Anybody else?
Who is they? Do you know?
They put
I think
that.
it's Southwest Gas, wasn't it?
I believe so. They put that line in. They threw pretty much all through the fall and winter, and then they came back and tore it up again, putting another line in, which I think was the fiber optics. And
that would have been CenturyLink.
I don't know if it's CenturyLink or Spectrum.
Spectrum, yeah, sorry, Spectrum.
So, but, you know, what Mr. Hernandez says, it just doesn't make a lot of sense why we didn't do it all at one shot, but I'm gonna have to look into it. And I believe the contractor is the one that would have to pay for the repaving to put the road back to what it was, not the county. It's not a taxpayer issue, that's the contractor that was doing the works issue.
I think
still
the
an
point was,
inconvenience.
just doing it over again. And
It's an inconvenience, yeah.
So.
all right, okay.
I'll get
I'm
back
sure
with
the
you.
engineering department will have an answer for that if we get to ask him at a different time. Any other questions on the budget from the public? No, I'll return the close the public hearing and return it back to the supervisors for their decision. What I need is to adopt resolution number 2018-19, which is
Both for coming.
a joint resolution of the county and the Yuma Flood Control District and the Public Health District, the Jail District, the Library District, the All Improvement Special Districts, adopting the Yuma County budget for fiscal year 2018-2019. So resolution number 2018-19, is there a motion to approve resolution 2018-19?
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion by
Second.
Supervisor Pancrase and a second by Supervisor Simmons, thereby ignoring
No.
Supervisor McLeod for
Are
a
we
minute.
ignoring you?
And,
Okay.
are you, Mr. Porches, are you still with us?
I'm still here.
All right, good. Must be nice out there. All right. Any more discussion on resolution number 2018-2019? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Wait a minute.
Aye.
We have to take a roll call vote on this one for some reason. So let's take roll call vote. Hold on a minute, Supervisor Porches, you'll be asked again. All right.
Okay.
Okay, on resolution number 2018-2019, we'll take a roll call when we're ready.
Do we want to
It's
make
also
two separate
2018,
motions
Well,
today?
2018-2019 was the first one. I don't know if we needed to.
2018-20.
2018 and 2018-20. Okay, we'll make a motion. We'll redo the motion if it's okay with the people who made a motion in
Yes,
second.
I
To
do,
go ahead and
yes.
make a motion that would include resolution number 2018-19 and 2018-20, right?
Yes.
We'll make those two together so we can take care of the whole budget in one single motion. Is that correct?
I agree to the amendment.
All right, so
yes.
who made the motion?
I did.
Supervisor Pancrase made the motion?
I second.
Supervisor
Amend my
Simmons second?
motion to include 2019-20.
Okay, so this is,
2018
okay, I'll take a vote on the amendment. That's the way she stated it now, so it's an amended motion, which I thought, wait, let me, just for procedure's sake,
Let's
I
do the
thought that we
amendment.
had taken the original motion off by having both of them agree to take it off the table. Is that correct? Or is that incorrect? Because then, what we have now is an amended motion that I need to make.
I'm lost already.
Mr. Chairman, you're the chairman. It's however you decide that went by.
Ooh,
I
twice in
actually,
one
I
meeting.
heard you pull the first one off
I
and redid a new
asked
mo.
if everybody was okay to pull that off, and you said yes, and you said yes.
I
So we have a
approve
new
the
motion.
motion.
Yes, there's a new motion by Supervisor Pancrase, seconded by Supervisor Simmons, approving resolutions number 2018-19 and 2018-20.
That's how I heard it.
Okay?
Okay.
All right, so there's the new motion. We have discussion of it plenty. We have the county assessor here, should have been here a little earlier, but it's okay. Take some of the heat off.
Is your internet broken?
Ken Roosevelt left without beating you up, which is an advance. Anyway, any discussion on this motion? Supervisor Porches, no? Okay. All those in favor of the motion
No,
signify by
roll call.
stating
No, roll
aye
call.
and individually.
Individually?
You guys just got a little too far ahead.
Nice,
yeah, right.
nice
Individual.
fix.
Uh-huh.
Nice fix, yeah.
Okay,
You spend
Supervisor
more than one
Pancrase.
Aye.
Supervisor Simmons.
Aye.
Supervisor McLeod.
Aye.
Supervisor Porches.
I'm gonna vote aye, but I just want to say that I was not too happy with the way the pay scale adjustment was processed. But my vote is aye.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
Aye.
Chairman Reyes.
Aye. All right, that takes
Motion
care of
carries 5-0.
all the motions, right? So
Correct.
the budget is adopted, right? Everybody can breathe a sigh of relief for a minute while we continue on. 2-minute break. And we'll go into the planning and zoning agenda. Planning and zoning agenda where full legal descriptions of property sites for all rezoning cases are available for public review at the Yuma County Board of Supervisors office. We have rezoning reversion hearings. In accordance with section 404.01, parentheses L, I guess, or, L, I guess, and parentheses 7 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance, the board will conduct a hearing to grant an extension of time to comply with the schedule for development, determine compliance with the schedule for development, or cause the property to revert to its former zoning classification in the following cases. Number one is Development Services Planning and Zoning, rezoning case number 0738, which is, again, in accordance with the same section of the Yuma County zoning ordinance, will be action to grant an extension of time to comply with the schedule for development or cause the property to revert to its former rural area 10-acre minimum. Zoning classification for assessors parcels number 729-04-089 located in the southwest corner of County 12th Street and Avenue 15E, Yuma, Arizona. We will listen to staff. We'll provide a short oral case summary.
Mr. Chairman, Fernando Villegas presenting reversion case 0738. For this specific case, Mr. Chairman, the owner has requested reversion since the board already approved 2 extensions. So I don't know if you want me to continue with the rest of the presentation, but the owner's.
We don't have to.
If the owner wants to go back.
If the owner is okay with the reversion, I don't see. Do we have to still open it to a public hearing?
Yes.
Right, I'll open this action to a public hearing. This will be rezoning case number 0738. It's a reversion case. Is anybody here in the public wanting to address the board? If not, then I'll return it back to the board for their decision. I'll entertain a motion to approve rezoning case number 0738, a reversion to its original classification as per staff.
I make a motion that we
Revert
it back to its original RA10 zoning case 07-38.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Oh, there's a second, sorry. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries, so that takes care of item number 1. The item number 2 is Development Service Planning and Zoning, is rezoning case number 1302, which is in accordance with the same section of the Yuma County zoning ordinance. The action to grant an extension of time to comply with the schedule for development or cause the property to revert to its former rural area 10-acre minimum. Zoning classification for assessors parcels number 748-27002, located in the vicinity of County 15th Street and Avenue 4E in Yuma, Arizona. Javier? Oh, no, wait a minute. Javier, not Javier. Oh, I thought you were switching. That's okay.
Fernando presenting rezoning case number 13-02. This is a more recent case. This case was approved by the board on May 5th, 2013, subject to the completion of the schedule for development. The current zoning map shows the subject property zone SSB2, and the intent was to split the property in 3 parcels. The property owner, we have the same property owner as in 2013. The aerial photo shows the location of a single white manufactured home and several structures on the property. Like I said, the applicant never met the conditions, and the deadline to comply with the conditions was May 5th, 2018. It was a more recent case, and the applicant has not contacted staff. And the board has the option to grant extension, to revert, or to revert the zoning to the original RA10 zoning. Staff is recommending the board to revert the zoning to the original RA10, and this concludes the staff presentation.
All right. Any questions for staff before I turn it into a public hearing? No questions. I'm going to turn it into a public hearing. Anyone in the public that wants to address the board on this particular issue, rezoning case number 1302? Nobody? Back to the board for their decision.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we revert rezoning case number 13-02 to revert it to its original RA10.
Right. Any discussion on the motion? Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
All right, there's a motion and a second, and now I'll ask, is there any discussion on the motion? If no discussion on the motion, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Motion carries. Now, we move on to item number 3, which is Development Services Planning and Zoning, rezoning case number 0338, in accordance with section 404.01, parentheses L.
Aye, that's aye.
Ah, is it I? Well, parentheses, that's right, an L would have another. I, parentheses 7 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance, action to grant an extension of time to comply with the schedule for development, determine compliance with the schedule for development, or cause the property to revert to its former rural area 40-acre minimum size zoning classification, assessors parcel number 186-33, 005, 006, and 007, 008, and 009, previously 205-39-006, located at the northwest corner of Old Highway 80 and Avenue 37E, Welton, Arizona. This is a continued case from April 2nd, 2018. I do have a letter from Mr. Clemens here asking that we, give him a 1-year continuance. Just
Correct.
reading for the
That's
record.
correct, Mr. Chairman.
He's obviously mentions that that he feels that he was misled, and that he didn't, that there was no public record for the schedule of development. So when they bought the property, he did not realize it was going to have to do, what the schedule for development is. Javier, can you bring us up on the staff side?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner, presenting conversion rezoning case 0338. Public hearing to revert the zoning or grant an extension of time for rezoning case 0338. The original parcel numbers was 205-3906, was split into 5 parcels. This is continued from April 2nd, 2018. This case was approved by the Board of Supervisors on March 1st, 2004, subject to a schedule for development. The deadline for completion of the schedule for development was March 1st, 2009. As of today, the schedule for development has not been complied with. Staff was contacted by 2 of the 5 owners, Mr. Clemens, owner of parcel 007, and the Vallecillos, owners of parcel 06. Mr. Clemens is requesting a 1-year extension, while the Vallecillos just wanted more information. The Board of the Supervisors has the following options: grant an extension of time to comply with the schedule for development, or revert the zoning to its original rural area 40-acre zoning district. Staff at this time recommends reverting the zoning to its original RA40 zoning district. That concludes this presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Right, I'm gonna go ahead, ask question.
A couple things. I don't recall, but I think, are all of these properties sold at this time?
That is correct, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
okay. And then in Mr. Clements' letter, he says he expects to apply for SSB2 zoning for his parcel.
He's
Isn't it currently SSB2?
It is SSB2, Mr. Chairman, but they
But it
need to
doesn't mean
comply with the schedule for development
That's
for
right,
the
to-
zone
for it to be
best.
listed.
Now,
So-
go ahead,
Oh,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chairman. So at this point, is either they build it or they will still in the
Revert.
same situation. They cannot be, pulling permits on any of those properties until they comply with the schedule for development. What he probably will work in the future for rezoning if this, within the year, he doesn't come up with a good
Solution.
outcome. Yeah.
Right, and so I think my point is that it would seem that he's in a better spot if we revert it, because then he can apply, right?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
And we're going to discuss today some of the options that staff has come up with. So what I would prefer us to do for myself is put this off until another date certain, in a month or 2, listen to the options that we have, and then figure out what's the best way forward for him and when he can attend and speak to us on his behalf. And I'm sure Maggie's going to bring a lot of enlightenment to us.
Do we have to, before we move on to your enlightenment portion of it, if we postpone it to a date certain, do we have to republish? No, it's just a continuance because we have addressed the issue here and now we can move it.
Mr. Chairman, Maggie Castro, Planning and Zoning Director. Reversion cases do not have to be noticed in the local newspaper nor posted. We do have to send a certified or registered letter to the property owners.
That's weird,
However,
because anytime I have a public hearing, I get a feeling that we have to sort of at least post it somewhere. But I guess the posting that we do for the board meeting, it's enough.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, it appears that the owner of this property submitted a letter stating that he intends on submitting an application to rezone the property. Is that what the letter says?
It says, I have requested a one-year continuance as I'm still researching my options and I need additional time. My wife and I were victim of the rezoning fraud and the purchase of this parcel, et cetera, et cetera. I understand that the schedule of development has not met and that the property zoning will revert to rural area 40. Within the next year, I expect to apply for SSB-2 zoning for my parcel, and I hope that Yuma County Department of Development Services and the Board of Supervisors will give additional consideration to my request since there was no public record of the schedule for development. The issue that I particularly have with this is that it's not the only one, all right? So if he comes in for an SSB2, I don't know how we split that property. It wasn't split before, was it? It was one single,
Mr.
parcel.
Chairman, it looks like the property owner or Mr. Clemens is under the impression that the board is going to take action to revert the zoning, and then he will subsequently apply to rezone his individual parcel to SSB2. The board does have that option to rezone the parcels and.
But he's also requesting a continuance. So
He may not
I don't
understand this
think
option.
That's right.
Right. I believe that the case planner has spoken to the property
Mr.
owner. Like I stated, if the board takes action to revert the zoning, Mr. Clemens does have the option, as do all the other property owners have the option of requesting a rezoning.
Individually?
Even if that request is also to SSB2.
Okay.
That is one of the options that will be explained when I do my presentation during the work session.
That's why I would just put
All
this
right,
off. for a period
all right,
of
why
time.
don't we continue this item until we have a more thorough discussion with Mr. Williams about how to proceed. We may be, now, let me ask a question then. If we extend it for 1 year, does that stop him from doing anything anyway? I mean, doesn't he?
Mr. Chairman, if the case is continued for 1 year, this case, 0338, that requires that when he's ready to develop the property, that he develop it in accordance with the schedule for development.
Oh, I see, okay.
If
So
the
that
board
puts him
reverts
back a
it-
year if he wants to do it.
Yes, if the board reverts it and he applies for another rezoning case in the meantime, then he may be subject to a different schedule for development.
All right, okay, so it seems to me the discussion is leading us on the path of continuing this item until we have a more definition about what he would like to do. And to help him expedite the process, it may not be that this is a particular action that will help him that way. Okay, all right, I gotta open it to the public anyway, so we can continue it if we have to. So I'm opening this to the public, and I'm excluding nobody but the assessor. So, we'll bring it back. The assessor can't say anything. I have voided his participation in this item. Anybody else from the public that wants to address the board? No, I'll bring it back to the board for, I guess, our decision, and my decision will be to continue this item to a date uncertain yet.
I think we have to be specific, don't we?
Come on, we went through that discussion. This is, it's almost like a monarchy. It
If
was
this
my decision.
required publication and all that,
No, it doesn't.
I would
require-
say a date certain, but I think if it doesn't, and it doesn't, as Maggie mentioned.
You just mentioned it.
You can just not take any
Yeah.
action.
See,
today.
the requirement was that if we had to publish it, we had to then decide when, because,
Yes,
they had to
because
be
you'd want a
certain deadlines.
continuation of this from this meeting to that next meeting, and then the publication would carry with
Yeah,
it.
we would follow the same procedure, which would be that we would continue it to a time that they're ready to deal with it, both the home.
Can we get a-
I was gonna say August 20th, that way Mr. Clemens has a date that he can plan for.
All right,
would
fine
be
with
my
me,
preference.
fine with me. So we will, I'll entertain a motion.
No. No.
I'll entertain,
You don't, it didn't have to be posted to begin with.
I'll entertain a motion to continue this item to the August 18 meeting to give the applicant enough time to, 20th, excuse me.
August 20th.
August 20th, to give the applicant enough time to really research his options and come up with something that works for him and us. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second? There's been a motion and a second to do just that.
Excellent.
Any
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we got you, Supervisor Porches, we got your eye. Anybody opposed? No, the motion carries. That takes care of that particular, well, it doesn't take care of it, it postpones that. Now, we have a work session, but before we get to the work session, we have an event calendar and current event item.
We also have an addendum.
Oh, you have an addendum. I'm sorry, I did see the addendum here. The addendum is from County Administration, is to adopt Budget Amendment Resolution number 18145 to transfer budget authority of $125,000 from the regular salary and wages line item to the other purchase services line item in the non-departmental budget. Who's taking this up? Jim.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, the current year non-departmental budget has
You're
sufficient.
gonna, remember that Supervisor Porches is in the phone system, so I know you're a soft-spoken guy.
Speak up,
but
okay.
speak up a little bit.
So the current year non-departmental budget has sufficient budget authority in total, but to ensure there's sufficient budget authority in the supplies and services category, we're asking the board to approve a request to move budget authority from personnel to supplies and services.
The board had a chance to read the supplementary information?
And that was to help with
Restoration to competence.
restoration,
Yes.
RTC? Okay.
Any questions from the board?
I move to approve as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
I was gonna give Supervisor Porches the chance to second something, but.
I withdraw that.
He's a little slow at the take. You wanna second this one, Supervisor Porches?
I'll do the second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second by Supervisor Porches,
We show he's
thereby
here.
proving he's participated strongly in this meeting. Any discussion on the item? None? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. And we'll now go back to regular session and we'll have the event calendar and current events. We'll begin with Supervisor Pancrazy.
Well, it's summertime and
We
things
don't
are.
have time for that.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, really, huh? Slowing down. I attended the second annual Yuma Forum on the improving health equity through collective community action. I attended the award ceremony and presentations from U of A. It's called Yuma Farm Camp. It's a week long for junior high kids, 7th and 8th graders, and it's about pharmacy. And then they each did a presentation and got a certificate. It's been going on here now for quite a while, and it's a really, really neat experience for those kids that are thinking, that are selected. So, and then this next week, I'm going to MAG 300, the Intermediate Incident Command Systems on the 19th, 20th, and 21st all day.
All right.
Fun.
Have fun.
Be
That
quiet.
sounds like a
Yes,
really
they are,
exciting thing.
but those are the things that I've attended. So.
You, Supervisor McLeod?
Sure. I attended the Sea Cadets graduation, and what a privilege that was. We have some really fine young men and women in that program. There were a lot of proud parents there, rightfully so. So I appreciate the invitation. It was fun. Attended the Chamber Legislative Affairs and wanted to mention that Representatives Fernandez and Dunn were there, and Senators Otondo and Kerr were there as well. Particularly Senator Kerr, that was a pretty long way to travel for a couple hours worth of meeting, but I was pleased to have them there. They really stepped up. Speaking of stepping up, I attended the Stepping Up webinar, which relates to mentally ill in our jails. I then became a thorn in the sheriff's side, and very pleased to let you know the sheriff's way ahead of this, and they're doing a fabulous job over there in trying to deal with those who are in our jail because of mental illness and come in and out, and so they're doing a good job. They're ahead of the game.
Very strong advocate.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah, Yavapai
Sure.
County just got $500,000 to try to replicate what we're already doing. And so really appreciate that. Sheriff's doing a great job. And of course, his staff. Also attended the Applied Technology Building Codes webinar. It's too bad Pat's not here. He'd probably pass out. But I did take the time to learn about building codes. So,
Boy, I tell you what, nothing is dangerous like a little knowledge of everything.
oh, well.
Supervisor Simmons.
Dang, getting tough.
Oh, he's on it today.
Let's see, last week I was down at our church youth camp, so that was pretty much my week for last week. Before that, myself and Charles Flynn met with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service reference to the bypass out at Castle Dome and getting McPherson Pass reopened. Speaking with Elaine from Fish and Wildlife, they're going to try to get us a schedule by the end of the month to let us have an idea of when this will be completed. According to Elaine, she's hoping by the spring or early summer, the bypass will be in and completed. There's 3 different routes they're looking at, and hopefully they're leaning towards the one we recommended because it seems to be the easiest, but per their policies and stuff, they have to have 3 different routes. So hopefully we can get this going and have this resolved by next spring. It's going to take a little while just to get the road in and stuff, but it's looking up a little bit. So
congratulations.
That's a big
That's about it.
accomplishment.
That
Thank
seemed
you.
insurmountable almost.
All right.
So.
Supervisor Porteous, anything to report?
No.
Good.
To
Oh,
report.
wait a minute. No, you can't get away with that. Where are you?
Oh, don't get into that. You don't have to tell us where you are as long as we know you're participating. So have a good time wherever you are.
It's almost 5 o'clock over here, so.
Oh, wow.
In China. He's in China. In North Korea, probably celebrating. All right. Then I'll move on.
dang,
Oh, yeah.
you're missing
How
the.
did you get to be chairman?
I don't know.
Oh, my
I don't
goodness.
either.
All right, here we go. We're going to go to the my report. I spent 3 days in Tucson. And, on a serious note, it's incredible to me how we in Yuma, miss sometimes the importance of what's going on at the Arizona-Mexico Mission in reference to, specifically to trade and how focused they are in increasing trade between Mexico and the United States, but through Nogales. I mean, the conversations over there are dominated by the corridor from Mexico to back, to Canada. And guess what? It all goes through Nogales, all the way through Phoenix and up that way. The efforts that the Yuma County delegation has made to try to get sort of like a Western link into that system are, you can see it, but at the end of the day, it is about participating. And so I try to emphasize that if we're going to be a member of that commission, if we're going to be a member of that group, we need to be a very active member. We do have a lot of, I'd say we have a substantial presence in the committees with Russ Jones, with Julie Angel, with the mayors of the smaller of the communities here, and so there is a lot of movement going on. But the fact is, we need the Greater Yuma Port Authority to be much more participate much more in that, and we also need to make sure that our voices are heard and that we start to sort of develop a more united front. We do have a very united front, but I think they're missing the county representation and the county participation in there. I think needs to be much more evident and it needs to be much more stronger. Now, that's not to say that other counties have better representation than we do, because Santa Cruz also, the county's not really present there. And I was really surprised to see the supervisor, Sharon Bronson from Pima County, was there only a few minutes in the morning, and then she left and she was not to be seen anymore. I made that point to the commission that for some particular reason, they have really left out the counties as a permanent part of that commission. And I think in some ways we're to blame for it, because really, we don't do much in terms of trading it. But now we're forefronted, and the mayors of the smaller community of the communities here, not the small, I shouldn't call them the small communities, but the mayors being so heavily involved, and now with the county being a silver member, I think that we need to continue to have an influence there. And for that, I think I'm going to start, coordinating with Susan to get more direct reports from some of the people that are participating there to come over to Yuma County and report on the progress that they're having in all these straight corridors. For example, there was a lot of explanation about unified cargo inspections that Mr. Brooks, recently deceased Mr. Brooks, was able to implement. That is all very positive. There's also there was also discussion about the increased number of inspections at the San Luis Port of Entry and the fact that both Nogales and San Luis are seeing decreases in commercial traffic, which is weird because it's not supposed to be that way. So anyway, there was a lot of issues that were discussed. It was a very busy 3 or 4 days. Susan, went to a lot of these meetings. I went to some of the other meetings, but at the end of the day, I think that the only way to really have an impact on organizations of those kind of organizations have been around for 75 or however many years they've been around, like 60 years or something like that. They sort of get into a groove, and they sort of get into a situation where they do this every year, and it's like an event for everybody that's already there to get together, and they sort of push their agenda. We need to start. We need to push our agenda much more strongly, and we need to push our participation needs to be consistent so that they can start taking heed of what we're asking for. All right, so that's kind of my report.
Just to follow up on the chairman's comments, I did attend the Arizona-Mexico Commission Summit in Tucson the 14th through the 16th, and we did have good representation, but it definitely needs to get better and to be more visible and more
aggressive
heard. And I think counties have, by default, not expressed their desire to participate and have an impact and get a benefit from the Arizona-Mexico Commission. And I think that Chairman Reyes was able to talk directly to the governor in a small meeting that made that, I think he made an impact, because the next time the governor spoke at the summit plenary session, he kept saying the state, the counties, and the cities were benefiting from economic development and trade. And so I think that in and of itself showed that he heard, but that's going to fade unless we keep it very strong and very upfront. And I think through the GYPA, as well as Forefront ED, we all can participate and have that. We have multiple fronts in which to make a united presentation and a united voice heard. And I think we need to make more efforts locally to get on our messaging and to have the same talking points and to be saying the same things over and over, because that's the way that you make an impact. So I'm looking forward to participating in that process as well. But you do have to be there in order to have any kind of impact at all. And so that became very evident. And I'm glad that we have Russ Jones and Julie Engel so actively involved with that, as well as Jonathan Lyons and
the mayors. They're really involved in
the mayors, yeah.
The mayors and the Forefront, the mayor.
Forefront
Yuma.
ED actually hosted, was the premier host of the Saturday or the Friday night dinner. And the mayor of Yuma was able to get up and make a presentation about what Forefront ED is all about and what they're doing. So that was a good sign. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is Desiree Doughton, of course, as well as other staff, are helping to work on preparing for the CSA Legislative Summit that we're going to be hosting here in Yuma County, October 3rd through the 5th. So as things progress, we'll give you more information, but I wanted you to know that there is a lot of staff work happening. Visit Yuma is very involved and very helpful in coming up with some ideas that are going to be entertaining and informative and enjoyable for our participants coming from across the state. So we're looking forward to that, and I'll report to you more as we progress. But October 3 through 5, we're going to be hosting the CSA Legislative Summit, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right. One last thing before I move on to you're not done yet? No, we're not. Actually, I wanted to mention, something I forgot to mention last time. I got a lot of kudos on the new seal. And I wanted to make sure that I acknowledged that Kevin did a lot of the work, a lot of the prep work on it. And it's a nice looking seal, and I really got a lot of compliments on it. And I wanted to make sure that everybody knew, there was a lot of work involved in getting it to this particular point. Anyway, that's it. Is there anything else?
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
I just want to say that, when I was the mayor, I always asked myself, that I attended meetings with the Arizona Mexico Commission. I always asked myself, how come the county was not involved, or any other guys, even with Forefront when it started? And so my question is, why didn't they, or why wasn't the county involved? But that was 2 years ago. Now I'm glad that we are involved, and we got to be at the table in order for the state, the cities to take us into account. So I'm glad that we're doing it.
All right. Well, again, I think that there's been a renewed commitment to economic development as a region here, and I think it was time. I mean, I remember going to those signings where the chairman, in this particular case, it was Supervisor McLeod, sometimes would be called in to sign all these regional agreements, and he would only be called one time just to sign, and then it'd be like, okay, that's fine. And so I think things are changing, but I think that we need to put our actions behind our words and make sure that we're consistent in participation so that they see us as not just going there once or twice and then disappear. So they just up to us to make sure that our voices are heard and that the Yuma County representation is as strong as is the Santa Cruz representation, for example. So, okay, all right. Anything else, Supervisor McLeod? Anything else? Anyone? Okay, then we have a work session scheduled, right? Are we going to have the work session? I heard that it's a Craig that was it's not going to be here. Okay, so we're going to have a development services planning and zoning overview of alternatives to existing and new schedules for development for planning cases. This item was continued from the June 4th, 2018 meeting. Maggie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maggie Castro, Planning and Zoning Director. Yes, you have before you the air form for the work session. Also included as part of the attachments to Agenda Quick was a memorandum explaining the options. Would you like me to distribute that again, or are you able to work off your electronic version?
Do you have a copy?
Yes.
All right, then let me have one. Hey, she offered.
You can hand one to Supervisor Porteous. I'm sure he'd appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm going to read this for Supervisor Porteous.
Oh, no, you're not.
I didn't hear that. What?
Well,
I'll hear the minutes.
That's what happens. You're not, here. I'll put one in your desk over here. You may want.
It's on your disc.
It's in the disc.
Are you watching online? We'll hold it up for you.
I have it on Facebook.
There you go.
Okay. Do you want to explain it a little bit?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The memorandum explains what some of these steps that staff has already taken to address the information that's provided or the information that's available to the public concerning cases that were approved subject to a schedule for development. The first three items, identifying parcels that are affected by cases approved subject to a schedule for development, has been already completed. Staff created a layer in our geographic information systems, our mapping system that shows the zoning for parcels, and parcels that are approved subject to a schedule for development have been flagged so that if somebody from the general public or a realtor or the property owner calls our office to inquire about what the development restrictions are for the parcels, they're provided accurate information as to what's required prior to them developing the parcel. Staff has also done some outreach. We did reach out to the property owners by mail and notified the property owners of the parcels that are affected by cases approved subject to a schedule for development of the
And
requirements.
certified mail, so that's even better.
Correct. We have also worked with Joe Worley, the county assessor, and we've
Maggie, hold on
updated.
just a second. Yeah, it's the top right. Oh, go back in where you were. No, the meetings and events. I'll go back. Meetings and events. top right. Yeah, isn't that what you're looking for?
I'm looking for the packet.
It wouldn't be in that one, though? On the right? To the right of there.
No, the addendum is the one that we just approved, the 125.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, gotcha.
It's an attachment and agenda.
Just go all the way.
They're
to-
looking for
yeah.
that for Martine, I think.
Yeah, they are. There we go. Now just go all the way to the bottom. Oh, it's not in there.
Does she log into agenda quick?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's easier. Okay. Go ahead.
Well, no, let him get it up so Martine can follow.
There it is. Yep. Where's the little things on the side? Below that. There it is.
There it is.
Good job, John.
So, Mr. Chairman, continuing on, like I stated, the other step that staff took to make the information available is staff worked with Joe Worley, the county assessor. There's information now in Tyler that includes information about development restrictions on the parcel. So if a realtor does a search on the Tyler system, they have that information that pops up or that it's that Tyler was updated with. Now,
Maggie, excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes?
Maggie, that was something that I requested like a year ago, and we were told at the time it was not possible.
Because we
What
have any
changed?
computers.
Mr. Chairman, there's limited information that we're able to put in Tyler, and that's the information that was updated. We can't put the entire schedule for development or the entire information that's required under the schedule for development. However, there is a note now in Tyler that indicates that there are development restrictions on the parcel.
And so that's recorded with the recorder?
No, Mr. Chairman, that's information that's within the assessor's Tyler program, not the recorder's Tyler program.
So what triggers a realtor to do the query? Because they don't.
Marketing of the parcel.
Yeah, but they don't.
They won't, right.
The realtors do not check with development services. So there still is no way then to flag.
Mr. Chairman,
this
the
issue at the recorder?
information that's in Tyler is the assessor's system. It's in three places. It's in the Department of Development Services. It's in the Tyler system, and it's also within our internal GIS system.
Okay, so if a realtor checks with the assessor, it gets flagged.
Yes.
Do they do that as a normal course of business? You know?
Chairman, I can't answer that question. I'm not sure. I don't know
Okay.
what
The
steps
assessor
the
would know,
realtors
but he's not
take.
here.
No. As a former realtor, we never checked.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So
All
we
we
still
checked
haven't
with was,
resolved that
all
issue.
we checked with was what came from the title company.
Or the recorder.
Yeah, that has all the deed
Right.
restrictions. That's the only
So we
thing
still-
that we were required to check.
We still haven't come up with a way then to flag it at the recorder's office with the deed.
Well, if they check.
Mr. Chair?
No, they do check with the recorder.
Mr. Chairman, staff cannot record information on a parcel with the recorder's office.
That's what I was told. Okay.
Yes, no, we
So
cannot.
we
do
have
that.
not overcome that.
However, if a case comes before you, and one of the options that the board has is to either revert the zoning or grant an extension of time, staff will be recommending in those instances where the board chooses to grant an extension of time, that they add a condition that a schedule for development disclosure statement be recorded as a condition of granting the extension of time. So that
The property owner can record that?
yes,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Ah, there you go.
Additionally, for all new cases that are brought before all new rezoning cases that are brought before the Board of Supervisors, staff is making that also a condition. If staff recommends that the case be approved subject to a schedule for development, that one of the performance conditions is that they record, the owner or agent record a schedule for development disclosure statement at the recorder's office.
With the recorder, oh,
Yes.
okay. I guess that's the next one that you were getting to. I got ahead of you, I'm sorry.
No, but we're working on changing this so that we don't end up with what we've had in the.
Here comes the assessor.
Hi, assessor.
Mr. Chairman, in addition to the steps that staff has already taken, the board does have the option of approving cases subject to only performance conditions, to not require a schedule for development. So some of the items that are required under this, are currently required under the schedule for development can be simply a performance condition. The difference between a performance condition and a schedule for development is that if the board approves cases only subject to a performance conditions, the zoning doesn't vest and our maps don't change until all performance conditions are met. In the case of approving cases subject to performance conditions and a schedule for development, the zoning and our maps changes as soon as the performance conditions are met. The schedule for development, if the schedule for development is still pending, our maps still reflect that this zoning is this new zoning that the board approved.
Maggie, if I may, Mr.
Sure.
Maggie, doesn't our lot split requirement resolve that issue now, though? I mean, do we need to do this, or? My concern was, of course, with older ones predating that, but.
The land division permit requirements have resolved some of the issues. The majority of cases that were sold and even though they were approved subject to a schedule for development, were sold and split prior to 2005. But that's an additional measure that staff takes when the case is approved, that the schedule for development, or I'm sorry, the land division permit is held up until the schedule for development is completed. The way the schedule for development is worded also takes into consideration that the improvements have to be completed prior to the land division permit being approved.
So we're going to do both then, basically.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's the proposal. Okay.
Very good. So how many have we gotten that, how many have we fixed all the ones prior to 2005?
No.
Mr. Chairman, all cases that have been approved between 2000 and 2014, staff has brought those back, which is, it's the cases that are still pending completion of the schedule for development. Staff has been bringing all of those cases back to the Board of Supervisors for either determination of compliance, a reversion of zoning, or granting an extension of time. I believe there's 3 cases that are coming to the board on July 18th, and I believe those are the last of the cases. But
oh, really? Good.
If you remember, the board hasn't always reverted the zoning. So in those cases that the board granted an extension of time and the schedule for development is not completed, once that time limit expires, staff will have to bring those cases back to you again for a granting an extension of time or reversion of zoning.
So we can't grab those back, though, and put the new performance condition on them, correct?
Mr. Chairman, you can once we bring them back to the Board of Supervisors.
But we can't go grab one that we, right. So one that we did 2 months ago.
We've got to wait till the time's up on those.
Right.
Okay.
The next item is the schedule for development disclosure statement. The board may require that a schedule for development disclosure statement is recorded as a condition of new cases.
That's a really good idea. So it would be recorded. Those conditions would be recorded.
Yes.
And your last sentence there means what? Ones what we were just talking about, ones we've already done?
It's up to the owner to agree to recording the disclosure statement. Staff's recommendation is that they record the disclosure statement. You could have a situation where a property owner comes before you and says, no, I don't agree with condition. Can you remove the condition? It would be up to the board to require the condition or not, based on the input of the property owner.
Can you think of any reason why somebody would want that recorded? Any, you know, I mean,
Most of the time, staff does not get objections to
But there are
either performance
requirements.
conditions or the schedule for development.
well, there are
From property
requirements that we
owners.
set for people to get what they want.
likely
So
the
it's
board
not
would-
likely. We just simply
Right.
say, well, if you don't want to,
If you don't want
you
the
know,
zoning.
why? And then we'd say, okay.
And moving on to page 2, reversion of zoning. Staff has been scheduling cases for action to revert the zoning or grant an extension of time. All cases, unfortunately, 3 of the cases are going to extend into the 2018, 2019 fiscal year because we do have 3 cases that are still pending. However, the staff has already submitted agenda items, and the cases are scheduled for the July 18th meeting. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 cases. In the case of old rezoning cases or any case process prior to 2014, staff is recommending that the zoning be reverted. However, it's up to the board to either revert the zoning or grant an extension of time. As far as resolving outstanding cases subject to schedule for development, ARS 11814I, the board can grant an extension of time, revert the zoning to its former zoning classification, or determine compliance with the schedule for development. This third item, as far as the board options, staff very rarely includes that as an option in our presentation because very rarely do we get cases where where property owners have completed only a portion of the schedule for development. Most of the time, they fail to complete any of the items under the schedule for development. So determining compliance means that they've taken some action to comply with the schedule for development. The following actions can be taken to resolve incomplete schedules for development. One of the options is self-compliance. The owners can choose to fund and perform the required improvements. Or they can petition the board to form an improvement district. In addition to that, actions to resolve incomplete schedules for development also include a new application for rezoning. So in the case of the property owned by Mr. Clemens out in the East County, he does have the option, or those property owners do have the option to apply for a new rezoning case and be subject to a different schedule for development and different improvements.
Okay, so as an SSB2, he can apply for an SSB2.
Yeah.
With different
requirements.
Yes.
Requirements.
Okay.
There's also the option of the property owners, if the zoning is reverted, that the owners can request a commission initiative, that the planning and zoning can initiate a zoning action at no cost to the property owners to convert the properties to a different zoning classification. Owners may also choose to purchase other properties affected by a case subject to a schedule for development, or the existing property owners can choose to sell their properties and disclose that the case is subject to a schedule for development. Mr. Chairman, at this time, staff would like guidance as to whether you would like staff to continue recommending that cases be approved subject to a schedule for development, or that cases be simply subject to performance conditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maggie, on the last one, this is when you said sell the property, the owner can properly disclose the schedule for development. But there's no requirement on them to do so, is there? Mr. Clements' adjacent property owner could sell it, right, tomorrow? And there's no obligation to disclose,
Right, that is up to the property owners to disclose the requirements.
right? We would wish they would do that.
And that's the issue, yes.
All right. Any more direction? I mean, you guys are making strides.
The schedule for performance, or that needs to be,
Performance conditions?
yes, that needs to be recorded on every single one.
Schedule for this, I'm sorry, schedule for development disclosure statement, yes.
Yes, well, and the, where it, recordation of schedule for development disclosure statement within a prescribed time as a condition of new rezoning cases, yes. So all of them should do that, yeah.
Sure, we did bring a couple of cases at our last meeting that have that requirement already.
And what about performance conditions? Is that part of the development disclosures?
Mr. Chairman, that is the guidance that staff is seeking.
July?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Staff is seeking guidance as to whether you want staff to continue bringing cases before you that are subject to performance conditions and a schedule for development, or you simply want staff to discontinue requiring a schedule for development and that all items be included as performance conditions. The difference between that,
That's
like
what
I
I
said,
want.
is if rezoning cases are approved subject to only performance conditions, the zoning maps do not get changed
I don't want them
to
changed.
the new zoning district.
Okay.
By not changing the zoning map, so it prohibits or prevents either a realtor or the property owner from marketing the property
I was just gonna bring that up. That
Yes.
seems
under the new zoning district.
problematic also.
Well, I know, but there's got to be somewhere in between where they realize that this property has been split, but at the same time, you have to perform on the conditions that we require before you can actually sell it. Is that, and that realtors get that? I mean, so that realtors can't sell it without the buyer realizing that if these conditions aren't met, they're not going to get to build on it. Does that make sense? It has to be recorded somewhere where a realtor, when they bring up the deed and all the stuff they get from the title company, that it shows in there that these things have to be complied with before you can build on it. That's what,
Mr. Chair, that is the purpose of the disclosure statement for schedules for development.
is that what it is? Okay. And it will get recorded and it will go to it'll go to the title companies. Title companies will pull it up when they do
Search.
a listing. You know, when somebody does a listing for that property, it'll be pulled up, it'll go to the realtor will realize that. And it'll go to the prospective buyers when they go get it.
Mr. Chair, the recordation of the schedule for development disclosure statement is recorded at the recorder's office. If a realtor or property owner does a title search or does any research,
There you go.
it'll
That's
come,
a title
it'll
search. Yes,
come up then, yes.
that's what I want.
So, if I may.
Sure.
So Maggie, if we simply put that as a performance condition, leave everything in the schedule for development as we currently do it, it gets flagged, but they can start marketing the properties, right?
Yes.
And we also have the added layer of protection for the lot split. I think that, instead of putting everything in the performance, because I was gonna bring that up, I said, oh, wait a minute. If a realtor looks at the zoning map, why would you buy the property, right? I think we can do everything we want, just putting the performance condition there.
But it protects the buyer. It has another level of protection for the
Should.
buyer. Correct.
If they do
You go
research.
through a
If-
title company.
Yeah,
You go
if they
through
do
a
the
title
search.
company.
Yeah, the problem is those transactions that are taking place between an owner and a buyer that doesn't go through
They
a
don't
title
always
company.
go through
They
a
don't
title
always check.
But we have the lot split
Yeah.
protection too, so
Right.
I think that's as good as we could hope for.
Well, it's quite an advance anyway from what we have.
I think we're way ahead of where we were.
What do you think, Supervisor Porches? Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, well, this is in part, driven by all the problems we've had in the past, and you're well, you're not one of the problems we've had in the past, you're just one of the ones that brings them up all the time.
Well, you were
So,
concerned as
we're
well as
making,
I was.
we're making some changes here to make sure that we don't run into the same particular problems we've run in the past, where people would, and again, this is only for those buyers who do their due diligence and, do research before you buy the property. So it's always a buyer beware type situation, but the more we can do to make sure that the information is readily available, the better off we'll be in terms of, defending our position sometimes.
Yeah, but my feeling is that a buyer and a seller should go through a title company, whether they're using a realtor or not using a realtor, they still be
Yeah,
going
should,
through a title
should,
company.
but they're not all.
And
Prudence
they
would tell you
don't,
they
and if
should.
they don't, what we're trying to do is put another level of protection for those people who are both selling and those people who are buying. But if they choose not to use a title company, there's all we can do.
Yeah, oh, okay, Maggie, there's a question for Joe here. Joe, could you please step up? You can stay there, Maggie, for moral support.
Thank you, Maggie.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Joe Worley, Yuma County Assessor.
Thank you for coming over, Joe.
The question arose, Joe, do realtors and/or title companies routinely contact your office for property information?
Of course, yes.
They do.
Yes.
So having it flagged in your system is going to be another.
We've been flagging, at the request of planning and zoning, we've been flagging accounts now for about 6 months, something like that, 6-9 months. Maggie's office will send over a list to me of these are the accounts that we want this particular statement to show up on the website, so that people, when they look at it, they can see that, yes, this property is subject to certain conditions. And so they'll know, okay? And we're real happy to work with Maggie's office to make that happen. Her office also notifies us when the conditions have been met, so we take that statement off the description of the property, so it just doesn't appear anymore.
Okay, so it's a rather routine thing for them to contact you then?
Yes, it has
We
been.
weren't
It's
sure if it was.
emails back and forth about once a week or so, so it's working out very good. Yeah.
Supervisor Simmons?
No, I think it's great. Keep up the
Thank you.
correspondence and, it just, like I say, it's just helping more protect the buyer.
Right, absolutely.
Right, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
For coming over. Before we, go ahead. That's it? Any other questions for Maggie? No, Maggie, you guys are taking great strides. Tell Craig that we're, and yourself that, we're pleased that we're moving forward with this thing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Close as many loopholes as possible.
Okay, so we'll bring back changes that the board would need to approve for the change process. This is a work session to get your feedback. We
Yes.
haven't officially done anything yet, so.
All right.
we need to
I do,
get
go ahead.
clear
Mr.
direction
Chairman?
on what it is you're wanting to do.
Go ahead, Mike.
As far as, like I stated earlier, if your direction to staff is to continue requiring cases subject to a schedule for development and performance conditions, the only change would be adding the new condition to cases, which staff has already started doing so no further changes would be needed.
It just, yes, but you're keeping us informed about this.
Because that provides all the protections, right?
All right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Maggie. Before we leave,
Yes.
One remaining, well, it's not, it's an event calendar in current events. I mean, we're gonna go back to there a little bit. The July 18 meeting date, it seems to me like a lot of us are going to be traveling the day before. I'm not too sure. We're going to the
I'm traveling today.
National Association of Counties,
Yeah.
right? And most of us are going to be going there. And it seems to me like the travel arrangements have us coming back the day before. And I'll tell you, it's really iffy sometimes when you travel back from a place like Tennessee. So would the board members consider, not to say anything about Tennessee. I shouldn't have said that. Oh, anybody here from Tennessee? That wasn't offensive.
It's
But
weather.
It's just weather related. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
You don't travel from Tennessee to Phoenix sometimes. You travel from Tennessee to Houston or some other place, and it really becomes a little difficult to plan. I would rather be more safe. Can we move it back? Are we still in time to move it back like a day, to make it like a Thursday? Let me look. Let me look. Yeah, but it's a good idea because I tell you, it's pretty tight.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, let me load it up here.
I don't mind. Just want to make sure that we don't, yeah, the 23rd looks fine to me. It's a Monday. we should be all be back.
Mhm.
Yeah, you know what? We moved it to the 23rd and we make sure that we, we're all back. Is that okay with everybody?
Well, please give me just a
No,
minute
no,
to
it's
look and
okay.
make sure.
Right, we're having the supervisors look at the calendar and see if we move that July 18 meeting to the 23rd.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Hey, Porchas, you still there?
I'm still here. I'll look at. I think I'm okay, but I'll double check. I'll be all right for the
Right, so the
23rd.
23rd looks good for 4. Let me see what Supervisor McLeod here's got on his calendar here.
What do you have?
Not that we really care that much, but what the heck.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with being truthful.
Yeah, give us a second, Supervisor Porches, but, we do have a slow member every once in a while.
He turned off his
Yeah,
computer. Okay.
But it looks to me like it may be a better idea than to have it that Wednesday when we're barely coming back and we may be caught up in some trouble, snafu and.
I won't be. Are you free that day?
Yeah, he's
Darren?
looking.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good
We're
for the
looking.
23rd.
Well, what can I say? Some people are technology challenged. So I normally just have it, it's a Canada thing, but what can I say? Easy, okay. Well, it's better than not being here the 18th.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it.
We do have 2 public hearings we would need to republish.
Yeah, but we got enough time. If we have to, we'll republish them.
Do we have
It's better to
enough
make
time
sure that
republish?
everybody's back. And then a Monday seems to be a more, like doable meeting. The 18th to the 23rd, yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
so let's make those proper changes on the announcements, okay? And we'll have the meeting of the 18th moved to the 23rd, okay? Okay, that concludes all our business today, this morning, and so the meeting is hereby closed.